Good afternoon, Nicole and Paola. I'm excited to have you both with me today. I'm Jennifer Kovacic, the Communications Director for the St. Paul Area Association of Realtors. And with me today are two Realtors and Communications Committee members, Paola Clydesdale and Nicole Hayden.
Hi, thank you for welcoming us here, and it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon with you.
Yes, good to be here with both of you ladies. Thanks so much for inviting us.
Well, thank you. Well, we are going to talk statistics a little bit and what we're seeing a little on the national level, but also in the Twin Cities. And I'd love to get a little bit of the pulse, what you're hearing, what you're seeing as you're working with clients and out day-to-day doing real estate. Nationally, we are seeing, this is reports from May 2023 provided by the National Association of Realtors, that existing home sales slid for the second consecutive month, falling 3.4% nationwide, again, according to NAR, as higher interest rates continue to impact buyer affordability. With sales cooling, buyers in some parts of the country have found relief in the form of declining sales prices, which are down 1.7% year over year nationally, although more affordable markets are continuing to see price gains. A little bit more that I want to share nationally, and this is per the U.S. Census Bureau. New residential construction continues to pick up steam as limited existing home inventory drives buyer demand toward the new construction market, and I know we're seeing that here locally as well. Monthly new home sales exceeded economists' expectations once again, rising 4.1% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 683,000 units, which is actually the highest reading since March of 2022. And again, that's based on the U.S. Census Bureau. So I'd love to just ask you both, what are you seeing? Kind of what's the pulse out there locally?
I totally agree with what they're saying about that, and I love those stats, how they can give us information clearly to our peers and all our consumers where we're standing, because sometimes we got different perspective and we can think that the market is not doing that well, and we can start creating ideas, some of our peers, and start getting off of the market. And the reality is other consumers are needed. There is a need out there for us to do the best that we can as a realtors, because we need to improve, create better markets for our consumers, like I said before. And it's a competitive market, and people don't realize that.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. It's always interesting to hear nationally what's going on, and then when we think locally, if I have my buyer's agent hat on, I would say absolutely, it's a competitive market right now. I just took somebody out 2 weekends ago, and we were one of 40 showings and one of 7 offers on a home. It is the popular time that people are out. So the fact that sales are down, I think, is reflective a little bit of the pricing for sure. That's going to put some buyers out of the game. They're going to hold on. But it's also more reflective, I think, of us not having enough inventory, and we're lacking that supply. And so if we continue to have months over months where we don't have as many things on the market, we're going to continue to have not as high of sales, regardless of how many buyers are out there, which definitely impacts the competitiveness and the hotness of the market.
I'm curious, in your recent experience where there were multiple offers and lots of different showings and people showing up, did you expect that?
Yeah. So I'll share a little bit, and then Paola, I'll definitely shoot it to you because I would be curious. So the buyer that I was referencing, we did a lot of work at the beginning to prepare her for this market. She is a first-time home buyer, and it was important for her to understand what this is going to be like. So ahead of going and looking at a house, I do a little bit of research, and I was able to share with her, this house is actually kind of underpriced. If I was doing the market analysis as the seller's agent, I would have priced this house a little bit higher, which I was able to explain as a strategy. It's a way that listing agents can try and get more people in the door. Or if you're just not as confident about how this is going to land in the market as a listing agent, it's sometimes smarter to go in a little bit lower and make sure you get enough people in the door. But it's also important to prepare your buyer to know there might be a price point that we should be making our offer designed off of instead of the list price. And so there's going to be a lot of folks that we're competing with that are going to be willing to pay quite a bit over that. So that was helpful. I think that helped prepare this person to both go in with realistic expectations, but then also connect with their lender to understand what it was that they were able to really afford and where they weren't willing to make a sacrifice, because she did fall in love with the house and might have been willing to go more than she was comfortable if we hadn't had that conversation with the lender ahead of time. So.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, what a great way to put that perspective out there for her as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I noticed the same situation with our consumers too as well. When people come to our offices and they start chatting with us and doing the first interview and see where they at, I like to make sure people really understand and see reality, because sometimes there is a lot of reality TV that is not really real. And people is coming with these concepts and ideas that they're going to have a lower offer because there is a lot of houses out there and houses are not moving, because people is getting the perception since the rates are up, they're thinking now that, oh, we can offer less for this house, when in fact it's completely the same. It's steady. We noticed some changes a few months ago. I don't know if you experienced the same situation back in October, November, December, those 3 months when the rates adjust from the summer. It was more like people was thinking and doubting, but people who was ready took the opportunity and took the advantage because they got a better rate in those months, and they got the house, and people was motivated to sell the houses too because they were concerned and afraid that their house as a sellers, it might not move on the market because of the rates were up. So the sellers were very motivated. Mm-hmm. It was so interesting to see how the beginning of the year, in the mid of the first month, it started picking up because people was doing taxes. So people is getting refunds for the down payment, different options. And the rates continue to be kind of like steady, I believe.
Steadily, yeah.
And then, and that's the market that we're at right now. So it's important to chat with our clients and tell them the reality check. It's not that we are negative in any aspects, but they should know how things are and the benefits of this too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's less of a emotional experience and roller coaster when you can be honest from the beginning and be that truth teller for your clients, because it can be really disappointing to go in with one expectation based on what you're hearing in the news, which might be a month, 3 months behind, or even nationally instead of locally. So yeah, having those upfront conversations, I think, is essential to make sure that your clients keep that momentum going when inevitably they might have to look at more houses or put in a bid on more than one house.
Well, and that's a great way to, again, from your perspective, value of a realtor, really showing your sellers or your buyers what you can bring to the table, because you can follow the market, but until you understand some of the nitty gritty and the things that you're seeing every day, it's a great lesson for them, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And also it's very important, our associations, how important this is to give us all these indicators and the stacks and see where we at, because we are in the field, we can see, we can feel things, but we can have the numbers right here. And if you don't have that information, I really suggest as a peers that you should go to the websites that we have for all these associations and NAR, the National Association of Realtors as well, who's providing stats. And we can really see closely what is happening out there. Sometimes we ignore that and we don't put attention to those details. Especially if you're a new agent, go to those websites. It's worth it. The information out there is very valuable, and it's important for you to know those details.
Mm-hmm. And that's one reason I love that we have these discussions, because we have the numbers on paper, but then to hear how they equate to real life and every day. Mm-hmm. So locally, just to share a little bit more with statistics, and this is information that comes from Showing Time that SPAR uses, for the 12-month period spanning June of 2022 through May of 2023, pending sales in the Twin Cities area were down 26.3% overall. The price range with the smallest decline in sales, and this hasn't changed for quite some time, but is the over $1 million homes, where they actually decreased 14.9%. Yeah. But still, that's been, the luxury home market has been consistent in this way for some
Yeah.
time. The overall median sales price was up 4% to $364,000, according to the housing supply overview that Showing Time provides. And the property type with the largest price gain was the townhome segment, where prices increased 7.1% to $294,500. One other area just to kind of, or stat to share with you, was just that market-wide inventory levels were down 9%. And I know you're seeing that. We're also seeing that housing starts are up, and I know we've been seeing that in the Twin Cities a lot too. This reflects gains in both single-family and multifamily construction, and if you drive around the Twin Cities and beyond the Twin Cities, we're seeing both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, interesting market to be on.
I think the townhouse stat is particularly interesting. We talked last month with Chelsea about kind of our aging homeownership population. And if I had some tea leaves, I would say that, I think we will increase our inventory, not just with new development, but also when we see a shift in particular age segment going from their home ownership or having their own home, or potentially they're moving into a single level townhome living, or perhaps a 55 plus community, whatever is kind of their next phase in life best fit. So I think that townhouse indicator is starting to showcase that. I think we've got a lot of folks who want to continue in that home ownership. Maybe they value not being in a multifamily multifamily living situation, but they're really looking for that lifestyle that's one level living. We see a lot of that in townhomes, at least in the area, the office that I speak with. I'm seeing a lot of that transition happening, and I think that's where a great deal of the new development is coming. It comes with a cost. I think at that price point, people see the real value, so it can be priced in such a way that it's very competitive. But my hope is, as we see that townhouse kind of purchase as well as new build rate go up, we might start to see our inventory of single-family homes, which could be great fits for first-time home buyers, also increase maybe 3 or 6 months, kind of a delayed impact of that.
Absolutely. It's interesting to see how that pendulum swings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious along those lines, whether you're dealing with different age populations or types of homes, how do you work with and prepare your client on the buyer or seller side for short-term versus long-term? What does that look like?
It's a tough one because sometimes people we are in the era that we want it right here, right now, at this moment. And some people is coming with those concepts and those ideas and expectations. Is something that we had to learn how to navigate with our clients. Sometimes that's part of our jobs. Mm-hmm. And it's the challenge, I think, that we're confronting the day-to-day. Some people have the rush to move in for different needs or situations that happens in their lives, and we have to be there and be ready for them. Some people is thinking, I'm going to wait. But I notice when people wait, they miss out the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I'm a strong believer that it's the right here, the right now, because you don't know what the tomorrow will bring.
Yep. I think that's a really great perspective. I'm thinking specifically to my sellers that we just closed last week. They're in their high 70s, and they were transitioning from a house that they built 36 years ago to relocating down to Florida, living the sunshine, ocean breeze life. And I think when we had our first conversation, just kind of casually in February or March about their desire to sell and move, they kind of had this, maybe September idea. And, they had a lot of life to go through and pack up and kind of just sift through. And then the next time we spoke, and I think back to your point, Paola, as realtors, it was important for me to be able to say, well, I don't know what September's going to look like, but I can tell you that right now, it's a really great time to sell your home. And there's a lot of demand for your home in this location and what it offers. So they shifted, and I think probably sped up their process more than they had originally planned for, but it was to their benefit because they were able to sell their home in a more competitive market. received a couple offers, got an over asking offer, and they just went down to Florida a couple days ago. So they're living that sunshine life a little bit sooner than they had planned, but it does kind of all work out. And I think that's the important thing. That's what our consumers are coming to us for. I think they would have stayed until August or September just from like a get through the summer, but what was most important for them and their family was that they gained the most equity on their home to set them up for a life of comfort in their next stage. So they were willing to make that change, that shift in speed for that goal. And so if you're asking your clients or your potential clients what their goals are, you're going to be able to help guide them to reach those.
Absolutely, yeah. It's interesting that to hear this story, because I have another situation with folks that they have to move out from their primary home, living in that property for over 40 years. And there is a situation, right, that they need to move soon. And how you deal as a realtor when somebody's sick in the family, ready to die, right? Mm-hmm. And they need to move out of the property because of time is counting. And you don't want to feel that pressure or pressure them either, because they're in a sensitive stage as well of life. But they're looking for this townhouse. They want to make sure the family is steady for whatever might arise anytime. How you deal with that is one of the challenges that right now I'm confronting. Mm-hmm. and it's the fun part of being a realtor, that you don't know what tomorrow will bring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those definitely sound like two examples where two families sacrifice in completely different ways, and hopefully ways that set them up, in your case, for unexpected earlier success. Mm-hmm. And, what are some of the different types of questions or concerns you hear from clients that might help other realtors who find themselves in these types of situations, which might be unexpected a little bit, especially the example you just shared, Paola?
Just basically always try to be human. I understand some of our realtors and peers have goals to accomplish, but the priority really is our consumers. They are number one priority, and we need to guide them in the proper way. And it's what I will have to share for other peers as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would piggyback off of that. And the human part is incredibly important. And there's a really tactful way to do that and honor our role as the realtor to bring that professional opinion, and know that people might be looking for us to be the more level-headed individual in a really big decision and a large money transaction when they have lots of emotions attached because it's a loved one. So I think to expect the unexpected and to know that some days the folks that are coming to the table might have lots of other things floating around. And really our role is to support, be human, be understanding and empathetic, and also know and trust that they're working with you to help them, to guide them through that process.
Yes. Be the professional that we are.
Yeah. I know that this isn't how the saying goes, but it's the mentality that, years from now, they might not remember all the details and the numbers and all that, but they're going to remember how you made them feel and how validated they were as your client.
Yep, absolutely.
I would like to pivot a little bit, unless there's anything regarding the statistics we talked about that you want to bring up before I do.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I'm curious about your pivot.
My pivot comes from a side conversation that followed last month's stats conversation, and it was really about working with clients and having additional people at the table or at the showing. A member shared with me that occasionally they'll work with a buyer or a seller, but let's talk about buyer because I think it's probably a little bit more in this realm, where the buyer comes and brings mom or dad, or in some cases, potentially an expert in the field who might be able to offer his or her expertise a little bit in the process, or in some cases where a buyer might be bringing more of an extended family and just a lot of opinions and thoughts go into the process before a decision's made. I would love to hear from you guys a little bit about your experiences, how you work with that, and how you might share what you've learned with other realtors who could benefit from your expertise with those areas.
Well, in my aspects, with my experience lately, it's been very positive because I notice when they bring more family to the table, the other family is like, just do it now, go for it. They're very like pushing, and that's good because I don't have to be the pushing one in any aspects. So that works great. It's been very good. But I remember in the past having the opposite effect, saying, I don't think it's a good property. No, if I was you, I will offer less for this. But you never know what you can expect with family members or friends. And there is sometimes the expertise that thinks that Mr. Know-it-all or Mrs. Know-it-all, and they think that they know more than you do as an agent. How to manage that is a challenge also, because you don't want to be too offended either, right? Because obviously they brought that person on board because they trust that person too. So you want to validate that person and respect their opinion. That's
it's a dance to be able to understand that they're there because that person trusts them, and they might have pretty strong opinions, whether or not those opinions are from a purchasing experience that happened 25 to 30 years ago. Those opinions are still going to come through very, very strong. So it is an interesting dance, I think, that you need to be prepared to engage in, to both respect their opinion and find a way and time to explain, and when it makes sense to share and chime in, and where maybe it's an opportunity to reconnect with your buyer later on in the day. So I'll share an experience early on when I was a realtor. I think I was really taken aback when my buyer started bringing their parent with. I wasn't anticipating. She hadn't prepared me that he was going to come along. So as a learning curve for me, now as I have my buyer consultations, I start asking people before we even go out and look at houses, who else is going to be a part of the decision-making process? Oh, that's when maybe I find out that mom or dad, especially as a new first-time home buyer, or, I'm going to have my sister, because she's going to be shopping in 6 months or a year, and she wants to start to see what houses are like. Because I think the first thing is to know when there's going to be other opinions. You can start preparing for that. But when you're caught off guard and they just show up, it's kind of like, okay, what are they going to be like? Are they going to be supportive and encouraging, or are they going to be more of the critical mindset, which you have that when you have multiple buyers, like a couple. Sometimes you can kind of pinpoint those personality types. But if it's somebody that wasn't part of the process in the beginning, it can really throw you off your game. It's good. I think the best thing is to ask in the beginning and try and identify that.
That's a great one. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's great. And actually, a newer agent brought something up in this realm recently, too, just with an unexpected additional person at the table. And it was a first experience with that. So I'm curious, do you set expectations? You have your client. Do you set expectations with the people that they bring as well? What does it look like?
I'll share. So I don't know that I necessarily set expectations. I try to lay some ground rules, but through questions. So, maybe we get to the house first and I say, okay, so what are you going to really be keeping an eye out for today? What's most important as you're thinking about your son or daughter looking for a home? And if they start sharing really detail-oriented things that maybe we would find out through an inspection, I can share, as a realtor, these are the things that I'm going to look for and what I would build into a market analysis. And just so you know, this is what today's market is going to look like. So we're not necessarily in a market where we ask sellers to fix things right now. We might design a price point that reflects that, but we're not really asking sellers to fix things. That's just not the market we're in right now. But if somebody bought through it 30 years ago, they might have asked the sellers to do all 10 things. So
expectations. Well, usually this is a technique that I learned. I don't know if people will like it or not, and sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work at all. Okay, when you meet with people, I like to share them different sheets of paper so they can write their expectations while they're looking in a house. And it's very interesting when you have a couple, husband and wife, and then you can see what he's expecting and what she's expecting. It can be very different. And then they have these expectations of price point in their head, and they put it in writing, and nothing works for them. And then everything had to switch to something completely different. So you try, but you don't know sometimes what's inside their heads. That's what we try.
It's a really good strategy. I might have to steal that one. I like that. That's really good. I like that.
Well, and that's what this is all about, just different ways that somebody might hear this and be able to, steal and share and
implement it and get inspired by this.
Absolutely.
I love when I hear a new idea I can bring into my day-to-day work experience. So I guess I'm going to go back to summarize a little bit, and I will share a little bit about the monthly indicators, again, provided by Showing Time Information. And, chime in. We talked about this a little bit, so this is summarizing. Prices, as we've seen, have been fairly stable, and this is throughout the country. I know we're seeing this a little bit here too, with the median sales price has decreased 1.3% to $370,000. And just to clarify, when we look at the housing supply overview, the numbers vary just based on looking at things year over year or a snapshot in time to this month. So if numbers are seeming a little different, some of it is just the snapshot in time that it's shared. Days on the market right now are up 65.2% to 38 days. And just as a reminder, a balanced market is 4 to 6 months of supply of inventory. So we're going the right way. And I think buyers, at least from what I'm hearing in conversation and hearing a little bit from both of you, are feeling a little bit more empowered. And, hopefully that's a trend we'll continue to see. Are there other things that you want to share in regard to some of your recent experiences?
Absolutely. I have some interesting news to share. I have some clients coming from another country recently, and I meet with them over the weekend. And, okay, this is the property that I want. I'm going to go and buy this house this weekend. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to fly here to make that happen. We're just flying for that particular property. We really like it. They make the arrangements, make it happen. They get here to this country, and well, the reality check is the house is not what they were expecting.
Oh, wow.
And then from this price point, they realized that they had to go above of the price point 3 times more if they really want to get into the lifestyle that they have. And that's interesting to see people coming from other countries to invest in here in Minnesota. It's very good. And people who's coming from the sunshine, right? Moving back to the Twin Cities as well. Or coming from the desert. They want to be in the Twin Cities and enjoy all the climate. So I feel like in Minnesota we're stable, we're fine, things are going to the right track, and this is a prosperity state. So I'm happy to be here with you guys.
That's a really good perspective. Good story.
Yeah.
To hear that people are moving from sunshine to here.
Minnesota's a great place. And this is completely anecdotal on my part, but I drove from the Twin Cities up through the northern part of Spire service area within the last week. And I don't know if it's just me or if it was just the route I was on, but it felt like there were a lot more signs and yards than I have seen. Again, totally anecdotal, but it was sort of kind of fun.
Good. Oh, you mean for sale signs?
For sale signs.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I was like, what kind of signs?
Yeah, for sale signs.
For sale signs. That's a good thing to see. Yes.
It's a good thing to see.
Yes.
Awesome. I agree with Paola in terms of I think we have a strong market. I would look forward to more of a buyer's market, more inventory, and more choice. I think when I talk to folks who aren't actively looking right now, they definitely feel some pressure from interest rates or, competition, but that is less. And it's still competitive, but 7 offers instead of 30 offers is a decrease.
Absolutely.
And it means things are moving in the right direction. So yeah, I think some of those indicators that we were talking about earlier in terms of townhouses increasing, maybe we've got some folks transitioning, more building, things like that, are all moving towards the right direction. And I think it's our job to help sellers with that transition. So I think buyers are ready for that to happen. Sellers, we still need that inventory. I think it's important for us to know how to talk with folks. I was at a community event this weekend, and a gal came up to me and shared that she has a condo listed on the market, and she was pretty panicked because it's been on since April. And she was like, we're not getting the showings, and we're not getting this, that, and the other thing. Like, what are we doing wrong? And, it's not an opportunity, we can't do this, but it's not an opportunity for me to try and say something is not going right with their agent. But I think it's all of our opportunities, whoever you're speaking to that has that kind of nervousness, to reassure folks that that's 2 months is not like a crazy amount of time to be on the market. And that doesn't mean that you're not right priced. It doesn't mean that it's never going to sell. I think that's the fear that people have. Oh gosh, it's been on for 2 months. It's never going to sell. I'm going to be stuck with it. That's the narrative. And I think we have to really help people understand that as we shift to a more balanced market, it's going to be on for a little bit longer, and it just might need to shift our plans and our expectations, that maybe we're not going to expect to go out looking for our new place that first weekend we're on the market, because it might take a little bit of time to find the right fit, but to not panic and get scared.
And speaking about panic and getting scared, I want to mention that there is a few agents out there, or a lot of listing agents, or the market that we're seeing. We get the impression that we're gonna be, any listing will be multiple offers. It's not gonna be the case. And also, when you have a listing out there, it has to be sharp in order to be in multiple offers too. When the listing is not proper done, you're gonna get a lower offer. And then when the inspection arrives, it's gonna be probably the buyer is gonna move out to another property. I had a situation at this moment where the listing agent is very upset because we're canceling. Why they're canceling? Well, because we need a new furnace, new central air, new water heater, new plumbing, chimney, and my list continues. And you suggest to your buyers, we can have a price reduction. How about we can offer less money for this property? No, because I'm using my life savings to buy this house. And even if I pay less for the house, it's going to be my monthly payments will be like $50 less. But how much money I'm going to spend to repair this place? It's not worth it. And sometimes people create these ideas in their head that, oh, you need to buy the house, or why are you wasting our people's time? We're not wasting people's time. We're just really doing our job as a realtor, showing our clients, doing the home inspections when it's possible to do so, because there is properties out there that people is offering without home inspections too, in order to get the property. Crazy, but it's happening. In people's reality can be very different from my own reality, other clients' reality too. So just try to be the best that you can as an agent and do the best listings and focus on that, so that way you can get great results for your sellers.
Yep. Here. I agree. And be respectful to your peers. We're all working really hard.
Yes,
well,
we are.
Exactly. And knowing you both, I know you bring a lot of value not only to your clients, but to the profession as well. And I really enjoy working and just hearing your stories and your expertise, because it's just great wisdom that you're sharing. So thank you very much. Are there any last minute thoughts before we wrap up?
I think one last thing I would share in terms of the stats, kind of what Paola was sharing, I think this is a really good nugget for folks to take away. Continue to keep in touch with the market, and be prepared to answer people's questions from your own personal experience, but also what the market is looking like in the Twin Cities, in Minnesota, and nationally. You don't have to have all of them memorized or have it on a sheet of paper in your back pocket, but the more folks you talk to about real estate, and the more questions they're going to ask, like, how's today's market? And it's going to be important for you to have an answer to that question.
Absolutely. And statistics can be found on SPAR's website at spar.com, and there is a statistics tab with all the information that you can break down, looking at the news in your area. And I would just say it's a great resource. So I want to thank both of you, and I want to thank all of you for listening to the Beyond the Stats. If there's anything that you want to hear us address in a future podcast, please email spar@spar.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you.